So guys, in this next news story, now I knew he was going to get sentenced, but I didn't know he was going to get sentenced for this long. So you're going to see footage where a corrupt detective copper, he was caught on CCTV dropping a wrapper coke in the grounds of his daughter's primary school, and he's been jailed for 19 years. Let me repeat that again, 19 years. So Andrew Talbot accessed the Greater Manchester Police evidence store without any legitimate reason on 10 separate occasions and took pocketfuls of the Class A drug, as much as he could fit in his pocket. After sneaking out the drugs, totaling almost 4 kilos, having tricked the trusting evidence store staff he used to feed his own drug habit, and sold the rest. Jailing him, Judge Neil Fluid KC said, a result of your addiction and greed and significant quantity of that coke was kept back into circulation. In that way, you deceived your colleagues and you betrayed the trust placed in you by them and by the community. The school's CCTV system showed a small snap bag falling from Detective Constable Andrew Talbot's back pocket before it was seized by his employers. The 54-year-old was jailed today for drug and misconduct offences and was slammed for a breach of his oath to public service. After the dropped wrap was traced to him as a result of CCTV footage in 2020, Talbot was arrested when he arrived for work at Greater Manchester Police's Serious Crime Division 4 days later. Further coke was found on his person and in his car, along with drug paraphernalia at his home near Wigan. Officers weighed the cocaine seized in the 2 earlier drug cases and discovered just under 4 kilos was missing. Talbot later admitted stealing the coke and abusing his access to police computer systems to search up local drug dealers. He has also admitted conspiracy with convicted drug dealer Keith Bretherton by posing as a police officer in charge of a bogus investigation to encourage and intimidate a man into repaying a £20,000 debt. But he denied supplying the cocaine, insisting it had been for personal use and that he had been a cocaine user since 2012, and the amount that he took from the evidence store was again for his personal use of 4 kilos for his own personal use. As he denied searching for drug dealers as an outlet for the cocaine he had stolen, insisting it was part of his policing duties and it was just out of pure curiosity rather than trying to sell them the drugs that he had taken from the evidence. He stated that he took the drugs to work because he did not want to leave them at home where his children were protecting them. However, after a trial last month where prosecutors said he had routinely and brazenly abused the trust the public had placed in him, Talbot was convicted of supplying the nearly 4 kilos of cocaine. He was also found guilty of misconduct in a public office and accessing intel information about dealers. Talbot was also convicted of failing to comply with the notice under the Regulation and Investigatory Powers Act by giving investigators a false passcode for his mobile phone which contained photographs of the stolen drugs. He had also pleaded guilty to possession of ammunition without a firearm certificate and accessing the police computer to provide information to a close friend who was being investigated for an assault. Bretherton pleaded guilty to possession of cannabis and possession of cocaine with intent to supply and conspiracy with Talbot to commit misconduct in a public office. Talbot was sacked last year following an accelerated misconduct hearing. Following his conviction, Detective Chief Inspector Jennifer Adams of Greater Manchester Police's Anti-Corruption Unit said, "Our tenacious investigation into Andrew Talbot uncovered the appalling extent of his criminality, which involved him abusing his position of power for his own personal gratification and criminal gains. Through our investigation, it became clear Talbot had stolen a significant amount of Class A drugs from evidence and was redistributing these drugs back into the streets of Greater Manchester. Talbot took an oath to be a police officer and to serve the public, but instead, he began to abuse his position and entered a world of criminality. This was a breach of public trust. It was the reason we've ensured he's been brought to justice for the full scale of his offending. This was a lengthy and detailed investigation demonstrating the diligence of our officers in our anti-corruption units, and this case sends a strong message about the expectations we have for serving coppers. We know the vast majority of coppers are dedicated and compassionate professionals, but we have no tolerance for any coppers like Talbot who's not fit to serve the people of Greater Manchester." The head of the CPS Special Crime Division, Rosemary Ainsley, said Andrew Talbot's brazenly abused his position of a police officer for many years. Not only did he steal drugs from Greater Manchester Police's own evidence store, he then shamelessly supplied those drugs back onto the streets in the cities he was supposed to be policing. His disgraceful criminal conduct and association with a convicted drug dealer are in stark contrast to his duties as an officer to protect the public And I hope this conviction serves as a reminder to one that who may think they're above the law, you're not, and that all offenders will be held accountable. So guys, let me know what you think with regards to that story. 19 years in jail. Let me know what you think. I wasn't expecting that, but that's what he's obviously got. And in this next news story, 4 men have been jailed for a total of 91 years after being found guilty of fatally stabbing an 18-year-old in Dagenham, thanks to the work of dedicated Met officers. Waza Bakana Kukabu, who's also known as Jordan to his loved ones, was tragically murdered last year at the Old Bailey. Michael Tommy Umbogba, who's 22, was sentenced to 29 years, and Tul Walasi Odun Ewi was also sentenced to 23 years in prison. There's a 16-year-old boy who was sentenced to 16 years for the same murder, whilst a 17-year-old was sentenced to 23 years. Detective Chief Inspector Laura Semple, who led the investigation, said, "I want to extend our deepest condolences to Jordan's family and those who knew him. Our thoughts very much remain with them today. I'd also like to thank those witnesses who came forward to provide crucial evidence during the trial, as well as acknowledgement the incredible efforts of those Met officers and other emergency service staff who tried so desperately to save Jordan's life. Knife crime has a devastating impact on our communities and rips families apart. That's why we're committing to doing everything in our power to work with partners and charities such as the Kinsella Trust to protect young people to make London safer." At around 1:45 on Friday the 5th of May 2023, Jordan and his friend drove to Dagenham Heathwaite station where they parked their car. The 4 defendants were already nearby and moved towards the vehicle brandishing machetes. One of the defendants stabbed Jordan in the chest whilst he sat in the back seat. He managed to sprint away and stop a passing car for help, but quickly collapsed on road. Police officers on patrol nearby provided CPR, but Jordan was sadly pronounced dead a short time later. Detectives immediately launched an investigation and pieced together CCTV of the attack and the defendants leaving the scene. They identified witnesses as part of the investigation who came forward and supplied crucial evidence. One explained that he had seen the defendant sitting on the top deck of a bus after the murder, reenacting the fatal attack they had just carried out. Met search teams found a blood-stained knife sheath close to the scene, which was tested and matched to Tommy Umbogba. Fingerprints were also found in a taxi which the group had used later that night. The 17-year-old boy was also found guilty of the attempted murder of Jordan's friend, while the other 3 defendants were found guilty of GBH against the same victim. All were also found guilty of a separate incident of violent disorder which had taken place 2 days previously. In a statement, Jordan's father said, "I want to take this opportunity to thank the judge, the prosecution team and the investigation team for all their hard work." Once again, I just want to say rest in peace to the victim. But condolences go out to your family. There's a couple of stories coming out from the streets of the UK. It's your boy GC. Keep it locked, keep it real.